Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. I want to give you a quick preview to our discussion and help you understand what I expect out of the discussion forum for Module 1. So for this discussion forum, we're going to be going through and evaluating claims that are associated with different marketing products and also pseudoscience that we find in nutrition and marketing in general. So what is pseudoscience? Well, according to Merriam-Webster, pseudoscience is a system of theories, assumptions, and methods erroneously regarded as science. Pseudoscience is not science. And even more so, pseudoscience is extremely dangerous to consumers and can be extremely dangerous to individuals as well. Pseudoscience can be used to try and convince people to do certain things, thinking that it has been scientifically proven or by using scientific methodology. But pseudoscience does neither of these things. In reality, pseudoscience confuses the idea of opinions or beliefs with reliable data, which would be evidence. And that's the crux of pseudoscience versus science. While science follows evidence, embraces criticism, and uses a scientific methodology to find its conclusions or its data and evidence, pseudoscience actually is presenting, for the most part, opinions, beliefs, and anecdotes, or using scientific instrumentation incorrectly to display its findings. So very briefly, I want to give you three different examples of pseudoscience and explain why they are pseudoscience. One piece of pseudoscience, and one that's very, very relevant today and has been around for more than 20 years, is that vaccines cause autism. This is simply not true. This idea came out of a 1998 paper that was presented to the Lancet Journal by an investigator named Wakefield. The problem with the paper is that it used falsified data to try to say what its claims were. It used an extremely small sample size to make and posit its claims. There are only about 12 children involved in the study. For a study like this, and for the implication it has, you would anticipate at least 8,000 to 10,000 individuals enrolled in that study. That number is not an exaggeration. Typically, we need that number of people involved just to get reliable data that we can then do statistical analysis on. In reality, every study since then that's tried to show a correlation between vaccines and autism and has shown there is no correlation uses at least 1 million individuals, what we call a meta-analysis, to show their data. Further, the children that were involved in the study showed signs of autism before they even received vaccines. That means vaccines couldn't be the cause of the autism because it happened before they actually received that vaccine. And then finally, Wakefield had a conflict of interest. He was making his own vaccine that he planned to market and make a profit off of, trying to discredit the MMR vaccine, which was one that he said caused autism. Now, underneath each of these different ideas here, I want to show you, I put links. If you want to go back and look at these articles and understand a little bit more about what happened, they're always there for you. What we do know about vaccines is they are extremely safe for the population. They save lives. We see with both polio and mumps. Once vaccination began and efforts began, the number of cases reported per thousands has dropped significantly. We are saving lives with these products. Another example of pseudoscience would be ghost hunting and electric voice phenomenon. But we're not going to talk very much about that. The idea here is that ghost hunting and EVP is dealing with the supernatural. And one of the things with pseudoscience versus real science is that science only deals with the natural world, only things that can be observed, recorded, and falsified. We don't deal with the supernatural. We don't have the ability to talk about whether or not God exists or whether or not ghosts exist, because those are unfalsifiable data points that we can't say, well, we can't say it didn't happen because you can't prove a negative. So that makes that pseudoscience, along with many other aspects of EVP, which we're not going to go into. Finally, another aspect of pseudoscience is alkaline water. Alkaline water is sold in many different stores nowadays. You can find it in health food stores. You can find it in supplement stores. And the idea is that alkaline water helps to make your body alkaline. It cures an acidic body. The problem with this, with it being pseudoscience, is there's zero reliable data that alkaline water does what it says it's going to do. Alkaline water, even when we test it by pH, is not the pH they say it is. And even more so, it deals with a general misconception. People think the body can become acidic. In reality, the body is slightly alkaline. It has to stay slightly alkaline. If your body became acidic, you would die. You would slip into a coma, and then eventually it would be fatal. So that's not a condition that can actually occur, but they're relying on misinformation and anecdotal evidence to say it's actually a product. That's all pseudoscience. So what I'd like you to do in Module 1 for this discussion forum is try to evaluate a product that's making a certain claim and using bad data or pseudoscience to back up its claims, and try to actually say what the problem is with that data, what the problem is with the product, because what I want you guys to get out of this class in general is to become better consumers. Understand how products might be marketed to try to skew the information or misinform you, so therefore you buy the product, give the company money, and not get anything out of it. So in the discussion forum, what I'd like you to do is describe a certain product that's being marketed, describe why what they're presenting or the way they're presenting it is bad science or unreliable data or opinion-based data, and then finally describe, based on scientific findings, what the product actually is capable of doing. With this, you're going to make your own discussion thread, but at the same time, I want to make sure that you comment on other people's discussions as well. I expect you to do this for at least 2 different people's discussion threads. Chime in and say what you think their data may be, maybe as far as their claim, maybe you found something else. Also, please be sure not to repeat products. Each product is going to be first come, first serve, whoever begins the discussion thread first. So I wanted to give you an idea about how this would go. So I'm going to do one discussion thread really quickly on bee pollen and whether bee pollen really works the way it is going to work or whether it's actually beeswax or bad science. So to do this, here's what I would have you do, and I'm going to show you how I went through the process myself. But to try to identify a product, it can be tricky. Remember, somebody's trying to actually market it to you in a certain way, and it can be confusing. So the first thing is, in your book, they have all these different things listed out for you, and you can always review this list there or go back to this PowerPoint, which is on Blackboard. And some things you should always be thinking about when you see a product being marketed to you. Is it a quick fix, like a diet pill, where in 10 days you're supposed to get a result? Is it too good to be true? Is it a cure-all? Will it cure more than just one disease? Is it going to cure all the diseases? Is it going to cure lethargy at the same time it cures cancer and a blood disease? Is it trying to sell you a product? What's the sample size involved in the product? If they're saying that they have scientific evidence, does it only involve 10 people or does it involve 10,000 people, which we know would be more reliable? Does it involve both genders, different races, different parts of the planet, different ages? For example, I'm male. So if the study is conducted, it only includes females. Is that information even reliable to me? And is the product going to give me the same effect? All these things is an idea as far as being able to think logically and rationally like a scientist, whether or not the product is actually being able to provide what it says it's going to provide, or is it a health scam, or is it relying on bad data or pseudoscience? Where you can find good nutrition always, as far as advice, would be from a physician, an RD. We have a health center on campus, and I'm going to give you a couple websites here you can go to find more information as well. And finally, when you go through and evaluate your claims, I highly recommend you use these websites to do through. The .govs, these are paid by tax dollars, and they help you to find good information and reliable data and make an assertion whether or not a product is actually doing what it said it should be doing. Quackwatch.com is always very good to start. This is actually run by MDs, and they try to say what a product actually is doing and why what it's being posited to do may be incorrect. So let's go back to my idea for bee pollen. So if I wanted to go through bee pollen and actually be critically analytical to it and say, is this product actually doing what it's doing? The first thing I would have to do is say, well, what is it actually doing for me? So let's go ahead and go to the internet and pull up a couple of different websites that I found. So the first thing I would do is I would pick a bee pollen product. In this case, I picked one made by Mercola, and I can review what they're saying about bee pollen. And if we go through here, it says it's complete nutrition. Now look here, it aids chronic illnesses, regulates the intestines, reduces cravings, so it's a diet pill. At the same time as a diet pill, it adds weight during convalescence, so it makes you lose weight and gain weight at the same time. Prevents diseases, anti-cancer qualities. So right now I'm saying, wow, they're marketing this as a cure-all. That's one of our trigger words that should make us say, whoa, this product may be making more claims than it actually has. If we go down, we can see that we have different researchers making different claims, but we don't know who these people are. They have some data involved here too. They say there's a very important paper that came out in 1948. Well, 1948 was a very long time ago. If this data was reliable, why aren't there any follow-up studies past then? If what they're going to be claiming here happened in 1948, you would anticipate more scientists through the peer review process would have also looked at this claim. Even more so, we say what they're trying to do with this 1948 paper is something that was found in mice. Mice are not physiologically the same as humans, and we can't anticipate just because we see something in mice that it will work the same way in a human. And if we go through this article, we're going to see also it does many other things, treats allergies, helps with physical activity. This is obviously helps with weight control and health and beauty. They even say they use it in France and Sweden to make beauty products. So a lot of different warning lights are going off in my head as far as, is this really a good product? What's going on here? So what I would do next is I would go to a website called pubmed.gov. This is one of those links I put up earlier. And I just typed in the word bee pollen. And when I do this, we see best matches here for bee pollen. And these are peer-reviewed papers you're always going to find made by scientists in a government database. So if I click here, and I look at this article, I can always read the abstract. I could look at the full text here. Going to give you a lot more information. But what I'm going to read here is they say, well, people make a lot of claims about bee pollen, but also they say one of the major difficulties in the application of bee pollen is related to the wide species-specific variation in its composition. I would start looking that up, and what I would find out is that, well, wait a minute, bee pollen and the composition of bee pollen is related to which flower the bee actually decided to pollinate. So if I'm in the northeastern United States, they may pick certain flowers. If I'm in California, they'll pick different flowers. If I'm in Mexico, they're going to pick different flowers. If it's a different species of bee, they're going to be attracted to different flowers as well. Did the flowers have pesticide on it? All these different things are going to make a different composition of bee pollen. So what that means is, even though these people over here are claiming it's a superfood and it can do all these things, that's whatever they tested, whatever bee pollen they tested. But in general, that's not going to be the same bee pollen I'm gonna buy. So now I'm getting wary as far as what they found. At the same time, I can type in the word FDA and bee pollen, and immediately I see medication health fraud, and all these stop letters being sent out and warning letters by the FDA. And if we click on these links, we find, bee pollen contains hidden drug ingredients. So there's things in there that we didn't know were there because, again, remember, bees could be going out. They could be going on flowers that were sprayed with a pesticide or an herbicide. We don't know. They could be adding different chemicals to the composition of the bee pollen. We don't know. We don't know what they're putting there. Phenolphthalein, not good to be in a bee product or any sort of consumable product. You don't want to consume that. So again, you can see it's not an approved drug. Studies indicated, et cetera. And so the idea here again is that we have to now say, well, there's awareness with the FDA to the product. And finally, we can go to a website called Quackwatch. So I just type into Google Quackwatch bee pollen, and we see here bee pollen and royal jelly pops up. And again, it's going to help me go through the different statements that those companies are saying and say why it's erroneous. So again, Quackwatch is a good place to go to help you get started as far as getting a base level saying, how does this product really work? Is it actually doing the claims that it says it does? So Quackwatch is going to be very, very useful for you. Right, just see the homepage. Very, very useful for you with this discussion forum. So here's what I would end up writing up if I was in a discussion forum. You're going to write about 9 sentences, or think about half a page worth of material, 2 to 3 sentences on what bee pollen is, how it's being sold by a certain manufacturer, then 2 to 3 sentences on what's wrong with it. So I could bring up the idea, quick fix and a cure-all because of these things, relies on outdated data and experiments on mice, not humans, and then personal anecdotes and positioning. In the article, it also said the French use it in beauty products. That doesn't mean anything. Just because somebody uses it in a certain way doesn't mean it has any property. And then finally, I'd expect you to include 2 to 3 sentences on your scientific rationale. In this case, the PubMed article I found, when you reference articles, don't just say PubMed, at least give the author and the year. And if you give a DOI, which is a document interface, it allows me to go back and look at the document you looked up and other people as well, so it makes it more reliable. Many bee pollens have hidden ingredients. So here I gave a link to one of the FDA drugs that we saw. And then finally, I referenced the Quackwatch saying there's no scientific study that bee pollen prevents or cures human disease. So that's what I'm expecting you to do for the discussion forum. Go out and look at different products out there on the market and say, does it actually have this effect? And run it through these variables. Just to help you out, I have given you a couple products that have had problems in the past because they made many different claims. For example, NO Explode, a creatine supplement. Many supplements that we find in the market are making claims which are not backed up by good evidence. Sugar Bear Hair, Vitamin Water, Airborne got sued a few years ago. Coffee bean extract. This was shown on the Dr. Oz show. He got in a lot of trouble for that one. Alpha Brain. This has been posited by Joe Rogan. The problem is Joe Rogan owns part of the company on it. So again, there's a major conflict of interest there. So these are some things to get you started. You can use one of these products. I have no problem with you using one of these products for your discussion forum. Just again, if you have any questions, please email me. I wish you the best of luck and have fun.